So next up we have Roarshock. Hey, that's me. So,
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for him. The Roar.
thank you, Rick. So this is Spoken World Online, week number 278. And Rick and I are pinch hitting for David Leo Suwa, who's having to do other things at the moment, but he'll be back soon, we're sure. We hope, but we wish him all the best in his current endeavors as well. So it's July 22nd, 2025, and uh this is my baby brother's 60th birthday. Daniel Patrick Wilson, who sadly died back in 2010. So I miss him very much, and I'm going to do a little tribute to him today. And going to start with the lyric to one of his favorite Grateful Dead songs, words by Robert Hunter. This is Jack Straw. We can share the women, we can share the wine. We can share what we got of yours, 'cause we done shared all of mine. Keep on rolling, just a mile to go. Keep on rolling, my old buddy. You're moving much too slow. I just jumped the watchman right outside the fence. Took his rings, $4 and change. Ain't that heaven sent? Hurts my ears to listen, Shannon. Burns my eyes to see. Cut down a man in cold blood, Shannon. Might as well be me. We used to play for silver. Now we play for life. And one's for sport and one's for blood at the point of a knife. And now the die has shaken. Now the die must fall. There ain't a winner in the game. He don't go home with all, not with all. Leaving Texas, 4th day of July. Sun so hot, the clouds so low, the eagles filled the sky. Catch the Detroit Lightning out of Santa Fe. The Great Northern out of Cheyenne, from sea to shining sea. Gotta go to Tulsa, first train we can ride. Gotta settle one old score, one small point of pride. There ain't a place a man can hide, Shannon. We'll keep him from the sun. Ain't a bed can give us rest now. You keep us on the run. Jack Straw from Wichita cut his buddy down and dug for him a shallow grave and laid his body down. Half a mile from Tucson by the morning light. One man gone and another to go. My old buddy, you're moving much too slow. We can share the women, we can share the wine. So Daniel, my brother, he used to have an email list and he sent out his news in what he called the morning wave. Here's one of those. Morning wave. Hello from Port Townsend. Been cloudy and slightly overcast all week, but that is supposed to change soon. Got a chance to go up and take a look up at our campsite in the Olympics. Got in and all our firewood and our table were just how we left them. What a great feeling to have your own special spot and less than an hour away. Well, that's it for now. Hope you and yours are doing great. See ya. Dan, that's the way he always signed off his emails. All right. This is called The King of the Kitchen. Many of Daniel's adventures were culinary. He loved to eat and loved to cook so that he could be sure he was having something good to eat, something he made. When Daniel was a real little kid, still having an afternoon nap, I went past the open door of his room one time, and he was standing in his crib with his back to me and looking out the window. He suddenly said in a high-pitched voice, "This is the French chef cooking. Today we are making salad. This is Julia Child. Bon appetit." I went and told Mom about it, and we had a good laugh. And a few days later, she showed me a couple of little paper cups she had found in Daniel's room, and he had drawn little dots on the outside bottoms. "David, they are little salt and pepper shakers," Helga said, chuckling. Julia Child was an early and enduring icon for him, not to mention Graham Kerr. And as a little guy, he was known to dart about the kitchen and hone in on the artichoke dipping sauce, eliciting this response from our father, John O. "What do you mean, eating all the sauce? My short friend, how do you expect me to serve artichokes when you eat all the sauce?" Many years later, when Chris and Dan were living in a nice big house off Morello Avenue with a nice big green room and invited me over for a fancy lunch, Daniel served filet mignon with a green salad, mashed potatoes and gravy, and sauteed vegetables. But what impressed me most about the meal were the artichokes. Daniel instructed me to dip the leaves into the dish of melted butter before dipping them into the dish of seasoned mayonnaise. He was famous for using a lot of dishes and utensils when he cooked. If he could not use all of them, he used as many as he could. He was not as famous for restoring the aftermath of his exuberant cooking to anything like its former state. Helga's kitchen at the top of the hill was often the scene of such strife. One time in October, Helga and John O were away on a trip, and Chris and Dan were staying at the top of the hill. It was Chris's birthday, and Dan instructed her to stay out of the kitchen. After a long time, she peeked in to find that every bit of counter space was occupied, and he was sitting in the middle of the floor frosting a triple-layered German chocolate cake. In the 1980s, Daniel Dean Simpson and I rode up the mountain to see the Grateful Dead play at Boreal Ridge. George James was living in Truckee at the time, and we invaded his house the night before the concert. "You know what I'm going to do in the morning?" Daniel said. "I'm going to make the big breakfast." "No, you're not, Daniel," George said, "because if you make the big breakfast, you make the big mess. And you're not going to do that in my kitchen." Of course, fishing, foraging, hunting, and gathering are primal to eating. On a trip out to the Bay Delta that Dan and Chris once took with their other friend, Chris, Dan told the ladies not to worry for dinner. He would catch fish. So taking his fishing rod up to the levee bluff by a bend in the Sacramento River, he lifted the pole to cast, and being a bit underweight, his shorts slipped and fell about his ankles. As Chris and Chris laughed heartily, Daniel, with his ass free in the breeze, a large party boat came around a bend in the river. The deck was crowded with people, and as they caught sight of Dan's naked butt up there Buff on the bluff, waving his fishing rod. They applauded and cheered until the ship had sailed on by. And just very quickly to conclude here, this is a piece by Daniel that he wrote when he was a little kid. Dan takes an adventure. I had a friend named Jeff. Me and Jeff played a lot. We did a lot of things too. All that time, there was a strange man always looking at us. He wondered what we were doing. Well, another one of my friends, named Larry, was spying on the guy who was spying on us. So Larry thought he should jump down on the stranger. All that time, the stranger's name was John. When Larry jumped down, he didn't know John was pretty tough. When Larry was on him, John threw Larry off right into the dust. After that good boom on his head, he sort of had a bump on his head. When he got up, he saw it was late. So Dan and Jeff suggested they go inside and finish their day. And I want to make note that since the show's been on, we've had the breaking news that Ozzy Osbourne has died. And he certainly was a influential figure in the history of rock and roll. Thanks, everybody.